User experience and user interface designing are becoming a thing of priority. An efficient user experience not only smoothens the process for the consumer but also enhances the journey that a user makes while interacting with the design. Welcome to the brand new episode of the Tech Ketchup Show, a Nerd for Tech Originals. And in this episode, we have Olha Bahaieva in conversation with us. Ola is a top medium writer and a senior UX UI designer. In this episode, she talks about minimalist web and app designs and what goes inside the brain of a UX designer. Watch this episode till the end and you will definitely enjoy it. This is your host Kushagra Srivastav and see you on the other side. Welcome to the podcast, the Tech Ketchup Show, a Nerd for Tech Originals, and I hope we have a great conversation today. So, ma'am, just to begin the conversation, I would like to ask a very direct and a straight question. Like, why the space of designing? Like, how did you choose this space of designing, or like, what drive you to come into this industry and explore more about it?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, hi everyone. Thank you for inviting me to your podcast. And yes, in terms of design space, I suggest that this is the topic that I was interested really about from the very beginning of my career and even in my university degree. And the major reason for choosing the design industry was ability to create something new and build products that will impact people's life. So this is the major factor.
Okay, great. So, ma'am, since you started your journey as a UX designer, then you have have been in the industry for some time. So a lot of things have changed over the years. It must be your perception towards design, your mindset towards design. It must have also groomed over the years. Then how people perceive designs and their acceptance towards particular type of designs, that has also evolved during the period of time. So now, why do you think, or like according to you, what are some of the major factors that has led to such kind of a change? And also, the design space right now is quite dynamic, and whether you take it UX, user experience thing, user interfacing, everything is quite dynamic. So like why such kind of a dynamism is there in the design space, and like how important it is, how important such kind of a dynamism is when you look towards creating some great experiences.
Yeah, so that's a really great question. First, there are multiple factors which impact this dynamic. First, it is the technology change, because as far as the technology change, that means that the designers should change as well. The second factor, as far as UX UI designers, they create the products related to app design. That means that devices are also changing. And if we take a look into products 10 years ago and right now, there is a huge gap. And the third factor, I suppose this is personal growth. In comparison with beginning of my career, I would say that it was required to know less than right now, because I don't remember that it was required to know the basic of coding before, but it is something you should show already right now in the very beginning of your career, at least some basic understanding.
Yeah. So like, ma'am, what I believe personally, creativity and innovation are something that go hand in hand. Also, the kind of job you are doing and the kind of workspace that you are in requires like both of these values to be catered a lot from time to time, be it creativity, be it innovation. Also, one thing that I believe, a lot of creative and innovative ideas are maybe they come while you are having an interaction with your clients, with the consumers. So a lot of things are derived from that conversation as well, be it ideas, be it innovative strategies for designing anything. So I wish to ask, like, how important do you feel is that conversation which you are having with your client or with the consumer to understand what actually is required, and like how do you personally go about such conversations with your clients and consumers?
So personally, I have this strategy which involves two concepts. First,
Okay.
it is a concept my product that I'm going to work with should decide business goals. And that means I need to talk business with the client to know
Okay.
the business niche, understand the competitors, understand what actually should be decided as a final goal. And the second approach that I use, this is user approach. So for example, if we have target audience, it is good to know what they're expecting to. It is good to know what they want to do in this particular product. And the combination of two this concept allows me to create user-centered products that which will decide both tasks. So I think this is the best approach for all designers.
Okay, great. Also, ma'am, there is one thing which might happen and must have happened to you, like during conversations when you are interacting with your clients, with consumers, with the stakeholders. Sometimes there may be a case when you are trying yourself very hard to get what exactly the client demands for, or what exactly the need of a client is, but you're not getting what actually they want. Also, they are trying their best to explain it to you, but maybe because they are not very clear themselves, that's why they are not conveying the right things to you. So how do you go when such kind of a conversation is happening, and how do you ensure that at the end of the conversation both you as well as the client are on the same page, and you get some valuable inputs through that conversation?
So actually, it might happen with all designers, and there are two reasons why this might happen. First, it is a personal perception of your client. For example, you created a product with major color of green, and he
Okay.
wants red.
Okay.
This is one approach. And the second approach, when there is a need in some new functionality or some particular changes. So first of all, I highly recommend to start the conversation to talk about particular changes that should be requested, that might be requested from your customer,
Okay.
and trying to understand why. What is the reason behind these changes? If it is a personal perception of client, then it should be reconsidered because the product is going to be built for target audience and they might have totally different visual or functionality approach. And the goal of any designer, try to explain any type of product that you're working with from this perspective, that you need to launch the testing or survey to ensure that this particular change will work. And if it is only based on clients expectations, then in most of cases it won't work unless there is some research and it really requires a lot of changes. So the general approach of this, try to understand the reason behind, provide solutions, and try to find the compromise.
Okay, great. Ma'am, like you talked about data, and like there should be some data that supports either your argument or the arguments of the client. So, like, how do you feel? Like, how do you personally feel? What's the importance of data while you are designing out something? Like, how do you balance out that thing, or how do you analyze the data to get something that helps you in creating more effective and efficient designs?
Yeah, that's a really important thing to talk about because, again, if I compare experience right now and experience 10 years ago, I see the huge gap between these two approaches. It
Okay.
is important to understand that your content, that your research should be uh, done before you are going to design something. Because
Okay.
research will show you the data about psychology, about the product niche industry, important things that will impact your product. For example, by psychology, your target audience prefer blue color, and you designed green color, right?
Okay.
So this product won't work. Or for example, you are going to create a product for Europe customers, but you created United States based product.
Yeah,
The mentality of these two regions is totally different.
definitely.
So I can go with more examples like that, and this data, any type of research service, will impact not only the way how the product will look like, but also how it will work, because there are multiple functionalities that might be redesigned or totally rejected by client or by target audience, and that's
Yeah,
why data is something designers need to always think about.
yeah, great. Also, ma'am, one thing like I personally wish to know that what is the importance of talking to interdisciplinary professionals, like you're working on a single project and then there are different departments that are involved, be it development, product managers, stakeholders. So like what importance do you feel that, like why is it important to talk to different departments while you are as a designer, why is it important to talk to different departments and take their inputs and then uh, work along those inputs and try to synchronize all the inputs that you have got from various departments?
I suppose it is really important to stay not only solo professional, but also be involved in a team work. I'll explain
Yeah,
you briefly why this is important, because first, everyone has a personal decision for a particular problem. For example, a
yeah,
programmer will have the technology to recommend you to work with. Marketer
exactly.
has some research about the content that will be required to include. The
Yeah,
product owner will have the data about uh, budgeting or the concept of the product, how product will possess on the market. So it is also something to include. So these small factors will impact the final solution of the product. And
yeah,
it is really important to start this communication on the initial stage rather than on the final when the product is ready. Also, for example, if a programmer work with language X and you created the application that doesn't support this technology, that means that you need to redesign the product again, because the programmer can't simply implement this. So
exactly.
these factors in total means that you always need to be connected to the team, even if you are solo professional. Just ask your client or stakeholder, are there any chance to talk to people who actually will continue to work on this product, and can I talk to them to ensure that I have created everything properly?
Yeah. Also, ma'am, like what I feel nowadays that a lot of emphasis is being given to the user experience part. So how do you like restrict yourself or manage your work so that apart from creating good designs, you also focus on the user experience part, like giving a design that supports user experience and makes things easier for the users, not just creating great designs and then failing at the user experience end. How do you manage this?
Yeah, actually, there are some stages during my work that I use every time. Rather than concentrate, as you have already mentioned, on visual part of the product, I start always from research. So this is my first stage. I
Okay,
try to get the information about, even though the information was already provided by my customer, I tried to do my own research to better understand the niche, the competitors, target audience, etc. So I'm collecting
okay,
this data, and it is good if I have the chance to talk to target audience.
okay,
And the user experience is something to think about from the very beginning, and I understand that. And trying to, as a next stage, I'm trying to build the sketches and wireframes based on functionality. So I forget about the visual part of product and trying to ideate some high fidelity or low fidelity wireframes based only on functionality side. So this is what I call user experience, user centered products. And the task is to create the general picture of your future product. And then, yes, you will apply your colors, typography, etc. And I suppose that UI, it is something that is already used as a polishing of your user-centered product. It is not the major
Okay.
fact,
Okay.
but something to think about at the last stage. So the user experience, this is the very first thing you need to think about, a built product based on functionality that is expected, and then apply other things.
Great. Uh, Also, I'm like, do you have any systematic approach whenever you are designing out something or whenever you are working on a project? Do you have something like a set process that you will follow while you are working on a project, or is it like a bit of a random thing, like you're working on your thoughts and designing and bit of a half-assed kind of thing where you are working, but it's there is no process kind of a defined.
No, I have two strategies and they are totally different. For example,
Okay.
first strategy I call startup strategy
Okay.
because this is when I build products from scratch and it requires much more work.
Okay.
And the second strategy, it is already for established products or just online, and they are already something you can check, you can work with, you can upload, etc.
Yeah.
And these strategies are a bit different in the start, but they are same in the later stages. For example, if I talk about startup strategy, then it requires a lot of ideation stages, a lot of research, again, service work with customers, etc. Whether when I work with established product, it means I need to work already with target audience more and expect more improvement rather than implementation of new ideas. So it is
Yeah.
something that a bit different. But the final stages will be the same. It is testing, it is checking your concept, will it work or not? It is applying the colors, typography, etc. that is already um, confirmed by the previous stages. So I think this is my main goals for both of these strategies.
Well, that was great talking to you, ma'am. Just a last question to end up this podcast. Could you just suggest something, some resource, be it a book, blog, or anything, podcast that you listen to a lot or read a lot, and that has helped you personally to grow as a better designer and as a better professional?
Yeah, I do read a lot of information on Medium because I'm personally
Okay.
contributing to this platform.
Yeah.
There are great resources from multiple publications such as UX Collective, UX Planet, and also Musli.
Okay.
Another great source that I'm listening to it is a podcast, Face Magazine. They
Okay.
started recently the interviews, so
Okay.
also interesting thing to listen. And of course, I use the most popular extension by Musli from Innovation. It
Yeah.
allows to get the latest news from all platforms from all over the world. So, for example, Dribble, Behance, latest news, you
Yeah.
can find everything there. And this is what I use every day.
Well, that was great talking to you, ma'am, and I hope you enjoyed yourself in the podcast. And thanks for coming to the show. And to all our listeners, whoever is listening on whatever platform, be it Spotify, Google Podcast, YouTube, just listen to this podcast and subscribe, follow, and share this podcast and keep listening to such amazing conversations. Thank you. This is your host, Kushagra Srivastav.